And we are back here on the National Hour. Let's keep going with a little bit of NFL action, Jeff. How about a former Buckeye, Terrell Pryor, doing something good in the NFL? Made his NFL first start of this season. He's going to be the starter for the Oakland Raiders. Played pretty well, close loss to Indianapolis. 19 of 29, 217 yards, a couple of interceptions, but he did have a passing touchdown. Ran for over 100 yards. And he looked good running the ball, man.
Absolutely. Prior, we thought supplemental draft, he might make it as a backup, maybe, might get a few games in, but now seeing him start Oakland, sort of happy for him because he made it into the NFL as a starting quarterback. 100 rushing yards, 100 plus rushing yards as a quarterback, that's huge. He led the quarterbacks in the rushing department. Passing, pretty decent numbers. Can work on not throwing the picks, but really he played a very good opening game, especially under the circumstances with Oakland.
Yeah, 19 to 29 is pretty accurate. That's not a bad game for a guy getting his first true start. He has played a little bit for Oakland, but going in for Carson Palmer when he was hurt toward the end of last year. So now looks like he's going to be the guy in Oakland. So we'll keep you guys updated on Terrell Pryor when he's playing well. So a guy who is in not quite the same light as Terrell Pryor.
No.
Ndamukong Suh, not exactly a proud moment for him last week, picking up a $100,000 fine off of a low block against the Vikings, John Sullivan. It was on an interception return. So, one of those plays where get a turnover, all of a sudden defensive guys become offensive guys, still want to go out and hit people.
I see that.
You see Ndamukong Suh going with the low block. It's $100,000.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable because John Sullivan, he was nowhere. He wasn't going to chase down the interception. He was a mile away from, and then Suh just essentially dove at his legs there. That's how the guys make their living there. They use their legs, they run, they stand on them. Like if you take those out, there's nothing there. So I really think $100,000 in this situation, especially with Suh's history, is justifiable.
And I was going to say that. I mean, it's not just about the fact that it was the low hit or the type of hit. It's the fact that it was Ndamukong Suh. Let's be real. If it was anyone else, it might not be $100,000. It might still be a fine.
It'll be a fine, but
you would still look at that and say it's a penalty. That's a dirty play.
But it's not $100K.
But it's not $100K because Ndamukong Suh has had a history of this, and that's why I think the league was going after him a bit harsher than anyone else.
But you have to have this stop though, because one of these days he's going to throw a hit at somebody and they're going to get injured. So you got to try to shake him down and say, look, you can't do this. And I understand he's trying to play. He's playing hard. He's taking shots at people. But there comes a line where, like, you can't go after people's legs, especially on picks. You can't go after quarterbacks after the throw. You got to send the message somehow. And right now, fines is all you can do right now. And then I think the next step is suspensions.
So let's go on to some NFL game picks for Week 2. First game up, Washington at Green Bay. Neither team wants to go to 0-2. Aaron Rodgers, Robert Griffin III, a couple of phenomenal quarterbacks going at it. RG3 is now going to be going on the road to Green Bay. So what do you see happening in this game, Jeff?
I got the Redskins here on the road against Green Bay. Packers would go 0-2, but I think the Redskins with RG3, that kind of pass and rush kind of deal that he has going for him, I think that's going to be enough to beat the Packers.
Yeah, RG3 obviously is going to be limited a bit running the ball, but as a pocket quarterback, he is still really, really good. But the difference, I think, is going to be Washington's defense, 1, and then 2, Alfred Morris. People forget he had 1,700 yards last year as a rookie, phenomenal running back. I'm also going with Washington to take that game. So they go to 1-1, and Green Bay to drop to 0-2. All right, San Diego at Philadelphia. This is going to be a 1 o'clock game. San Diego coming to Philadelphia, going all the way across the coast. That's going to be an early game, a 10 a.m. game in San Diego, but it will be in Philadelphia.
The body clock.
So on that West Coast time, San Diego is not going to be having too many favors going out to Philadelphia.
Yeah, especially since that Monday night game with the Texans where they choked that game away, and really, if you got to go against Philadelphia, I don't see San Diego holding on, especially with the way this hurry-up, no-huddle offense that Chip Kelly has for the Eagles. I think it's Eagles big.
I think the Eagles are going to win this game, but obviously I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm a little biased, but I do think the Eagles defense is going to have to step up from where they were last week. Toward the end of the game, RG3 was able to get whatever he wanted. So if that Philadelphia defense is like they were in the first half, they walk through San Diego. If not, Phillip Rivers could definitely find his targets and have a big game. Okay, so we're both going Philly on that one. Both going Washington, so we're both picking the same teams. We need to see if we can split this up. Denver at New York, the Manning Bowl. It's going to be Sunday night game. Denver going to New York to take on the Giants. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning going at it. Who do you have winning this version of the Manning Bowl?
I think that's. I want to say Broncos, but I'm just doing this to spite you. I'm going to say Giants because I really think for Peyton Manning, he was great in that first game, but you can't play out of your mind twice. You can do it once with 7 touchdowns, but you can't. If you do it twice, just give him the MVP right now. But I think it's a very modest 2-3 touchdowns, 1 pick kind of week. And I think even though look at last week with the Giants, Eli struggled. The team had 6 turnovers. They lost by 5 to the Cowboys. If they play half the day against the Cowboys, they would probably beat the Cowboys. And I think with the Broncos here, I think with the home field advantage, Giants, I'm going with them close. Won't be a blowout, but it's maybe a 3 or 4 point victory for the Giants.
Both of the defenses with concern on the defensive line right now for each of these teams. Obviously, Von Miller out, and the defensive line for the Giants dealing with injuries. Looking at the quarterbacks, they're pretty even. Both of the Mannings, phenomenal quarterbacks.
Very good quarterbacks.
But you look at the receivers, you have Victor Cruz, who's the clear number 1. You look at Denver, you don't even really know who the number 1 is. You had 2 touchdowns from Demaryius Thomas. You had 2 touchdowns from Wes Welker. And Julius Thomas goes out there and catches a couple of touchdowns. I feel like I probably could have caught a touchdown playing with Peyton Manning in that game against the Ravens.
Absolutely.
So I got to go with Peyton Manning and the Broncos.
Okay.
I feel like he has too many targets right now. I'm going with Denver. You're going to go with New York on that one.
Here we go.
All right, we got our first split. San Francisco at Seattle. That's going to be the great battle of the defenses and mobile quarterbacks, a tough one to pick. NFC West rivalry game. Who do you have in this one, Jeff?
I am going to have to say it's a tough one right now because both teams are equally good. Surprise pick, I'm going with Seattle.
All right.
I really think they could. It's a home field advantage, and that team with that stadium, that's going to be a very tough place to win in.
Let's not forget they got beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, who had a quiet game against Carolina. Expect him to have a bounce-back week, but I'm going to go with San Francisco. I think just like with Denver, they have so many great receiving threats. And Colin Kaepernick, he's really starting to come into his own. He looked phenomenal against Green Bay. Obviously, Seattle's a much better defense, but we'll see what he does against Seattle. Now, finally, the last game, the game that you're excited for, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. This is going to be the Monday Night Football pick, and we're going to have a bit of a jersey pick. Jeff, who do you have?
Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Ben Roethlisberger, Steelers, very good. Forget about this team. They're everybody's gone. Everybody's hurt. Foot's out for the year. Pouncey's out. Gotta go with my boy. He went to Georgia. Plays for the Bengals. He's their star receiver. I'm going to go with A.J. Green and the Bengals on this one. It's like Lee Corso's headgear picks.
Right.
So I had the NFL jersey. So right now, it's A.J. Green, Bengals. I'm going to say it's going to be a 20-point victory because Pittsburgh's struggling. Bengals look hot. Dalton Green, that's all you need.
I'm going to agree with you. It's going to be Cincinnati taking this one. Pittsburgh looked really bad in their first game against Tennessee, unable to get an offensive touchdown to the end of the game. It was 16-9 that they lost to the Titans. Not exactly a powerhouse team. And Cincinnati just barely lost to the Bears. I think Cincinnati has a bit more in the tank. And love to see what Giovanni Bernard does for the Bengals at running back. Right, so that's going to do it for our NFL divisional talk. We're going to move on to next segment. Baseball and stories coming up on the other side of this break here on the National Hour.